The movie opens with a stunning view of a remote cliffside house in Cyprus, perched dramatically above the shimmering blue waters below. Inside, the house is in a state of disarray, with loud music blaring from the radio, adding to the chaotic atmosphere. The camera pans to reveal John Allman, the protagonist of our story, standing in front of the bathroom mirror. He's brushing his teeth, seemingly oblivious to the mess around him, lost in the rhythm of the music. As he brushes, he suddenly injures himself, muttering a string of curses under his breath. Despite the disarray, John moves to the kitchen with a casual indifference, expertly crafting a cup of coffee, a small ritual he savors in the midst of the chaos. He settles into a chair, staring out the window, deliberately ignoring his phone, which rings continuously. As he gazes out at the breathtaking view, something catches his eye: a man standing precariously close to the edge of the cliff. Concerned, yet assuming the man is just another journalist seeking an interview, John steps outside to confront him. Without warning, the stranger leaps off the cliff, plunging into the abyss below. Shock and disbelief wash over John as he stands frozen at the edge, the serene beauty of the cliffside now tainted by the sudden, inexplicable tragedy. Within minutes, a police team arrives at the cliffside house, led by Captain Manoli. Manoli conducts a brief but thorough interrogation, his sharp eyes taking in every detail as he questions John about the incident. This is when John finds out that the place where he bought the house is pretty famous in the area for being a place where people end themselves. Manoli is surprised that John didn't know about it, because it has become some sort of legend in the past few years. He then gives John his number, instructing him to call immediately if he notices anyone else lingering near the cliff's edge. Having a not-so-warm welcome at the island, John decides to get out of the house for a bit and head into town to buy some supplies. At the local grocery store, he picks up a few essentials, and the friendly shopkeeper, a woman with a warm smile, helps him find what he needs. As she rings up his purchases, she remarks that he looks familiar, a comment that John quickly brushes off, eager to avoid any further questions. Before leaving, John asks if the store offers delivery services, hoping to minimize future trips into town. The woman agrees, but when he gives her his address, her cheerful demeanor falters. She looks at him with a mixture of shock and concern, her expression suggesting that she is shocked, wondering why would any sane man live there. The scene shifts to a sunlit coastal road, where a young woman named Molina rides her Vespa with effortless grace. Molina, stunningly beautiful with a free-spirited aura, arrives at her workplace, a quaint, bustling tavern. As she walks in, she's met with the news that one of her colleagues has fallen ill, and they need her to cover the shift. Initially hesitant, since her true role is that of the tavern's singer, not a waitress, Molina reluctantly agrees. That evening, as Molina takes the stage, her voice fills the room, captivating everyone present. Her melodic tunes create a magical atmosphere, drawing the patrons into a serene trance. Meanwhile, miles away at his cliffside home, John is seen struggling to build a makeshift fence to keep people away from the dangerous edge. His attempts are clumsy and ultimately futile, reflecting his frustration and sense of helplessness. Exhausted from his efforts, he eventually collapses near the half-finished fence, the weight of recent events taking its toll. The next morning, Molina finds him passed out near the fence he was trying to build. Turns out that she is here to deliver his groceries. She helps him put away the groceries while he gets the money. She takes her money and starts to leave, but something about the items scattered around catches her attention: guitars, records, and music memorabilia. The realization hits her. This isn't just any ordinary man. This is John Allman, the world-renowned rock star who once dominated the music charts. She is suddenly curious about him, asking why a superstar like him would retreat to such a remote place. It is revealed that after the failure of his latest album, he decided to take a break from everything and came to live on the island. She recommends him to get a lover, but he really isn't interested. Undeterred, Molina sighs and, before leaving, tells him about a secret, secluded beach nearby, a hidden gem where he might find the solitude he's seeking. With that, she hops back on her Vespa and speeds off. After Molina leaves, John decides to finally confront the world he's been avoiding and calls his manager, Jimmy. He is furious at John for ignoring his calls for the past couple of days. When John nonchalantly mentions that he's in Cyprus, Jimmy's anger only escalates. He implores John to return home, urging him to get back to making music and putting his life back on track. John, however, is only half listening, his eyes fixed on something outside. Suddenly, he spots a woman teetering on the edge of the cliff. Without a second thought, he abruptly hangs up on Jimmy and frantically calls Captain Manoli. Manoli arrives just in time to save the woman, who who is revealed to be the mother of the man who had jumped off the cliff just days before. He then says that he is glad that John came to live here because he can be of help. The conversation turns in a different direction when Manoli mentions his sister, whom he believes would be the perfect match for John. John, not exactly thrilled by the suggestion, forces a polite smile but remains silent. Later that night, Manoli takes John to the tavern to have some fun. There he sees Molina sing and is impressed. Her singing fills the room, and for a moment, John is lost in the music, forgetting his troubles. While sharing drinks, Manoli begins peppering John with questions, unable to contain his excitement. It turns out that Manoli recognized John the moment he saw him and is actually a big fan of his song, Girl on the Beach. John sighs, realizing that his attempt to keep a low profile might be more challenging than he thought. After finishing her first set, Molina comes and sits with John. They engage in conversation, with Molina explaining that the island is a close-knit community where everyone knows everyone else, and many are related, without knowing what fate has in store for them. As she heads back to the stage for her next set, Manoli drags John over to meet some of his friends who have gathered at a large table. Among the group, John recognizes Sia, the island's best doctor. Although there's a flicker of recognition in Sia's eyes, she pretends not to know him, and John plays along. As they engage in small talk, the conversation turns to John's previous visit to Cyprus many years ago. The atmosphere becomes nostalgic, and suddenly one of the women at the table, Andriana, exclaims in recognition. She's a fan, like so many others, and soon the entire table is abuzz with excitement, talking about how much they love his song, Girl on the Beach. Despite the widespread belief that the song was inspired by real-life events, John denies the rumors, trying to distance himself from the personal speculation. The attention and the memories become overwhelming for him, and he feels a rising need to escape. Excusing himself, John leaves the tavern. Once out of the tavern, he is stopped by Sia. She approaches him with an apology, clearly flustered by their unexpected encounter. She hadn't anticipated seeing him again after so many years, and the surprise of it all had thrown her off balance. The tension between them peaks, and before they know it, they're caught in a passionate kiss. It's as if time has rewound, and the years of distance and silence between them vanish. They spend the night together, reconnecting in ways both physical and emotional. As dawn breaks, Sia quietly slips out of John's house, not wanting to disturb him. She heads home to change, and then makes her way to the local church. There, her sister Kula, who also happens to be the woman from the grocery store, spots her and immediately starts questioning her whereabouts. Sia, caught off guard, admits that John is back on the island, which leaves Kula shocked. Just as they are talking, Kula receives a call from Sia's number. Confused, she answers, only to hear John on the other end. It turns out that Sia had accidentally left her phone at his place, and he's calling to return it. In typical John fashion, he seizes the opportunity to ask Sia out for lunch, but she declines, not wanting to rush into anything. However, John is nothing if not persistent, and after some gentle persuasion, Sia reluctantly agrees to think about dinner. Later that day, Sia is at work, attending to her patients with her usual calm and professionalism. She's in the middle of her routine when she steps outside and is taken aback to see John waiting for her. He has come all the way to the hospital to return her phone. He tells her that he wanted to ask her a question, but she sneaked out. Sia sighs and gives him a thumbs up to go ahead with his question. John, with a mix of vulnerability and curiosity, asks her why she never married. Sia, taken aback by the directness of his question, turns it back on him, asking why he never settled down. With a sad, reflective smile, John admits that he never found the right person, someone who could truly understand and complement him. Sia, after a moment of silence, quietly admits the same. He leaves her alone, after getting her to promise to come over for dinner. After his meeting with Sia, John takes Molina's advice and heads to the secluded beach she mentioned. The beach is serene, with crystal clear water gently lapping against the shore, offering a perfect escape from the complexities of his life. Eager to unwind, John undresses and wades into the water, feeling a rare moment of peace wash over him. But it isn't his lucky day as some people arrive. On the other hand, Sia finds herself listening to some gossip going around about John Allman's presence in Cyprus. The gossip turns towards John's personal life and all of his high-profile relationships. Sia tries to focus on her work, but the gossip stirs an unexpected pang of jealousy within her. John finally manages to get back home. When Molina arrives, she finds him seething with anger. Turns out that waiting for those people to leave, he spent quite some hours out in the sun, getting sunburned. She laughs at his situation, but then apologizes for her outburst of laughter. She spots his guitar on a chair and asks about his life story. John takes advantage of the moment and makes a deal with her. His stories, in return for her helping him with dinner. While Sia gets ready for the dinner, Kula calls it all a bad idea. But instead of listening to her sister, Sia keeps on getting ready, saying that she is handling the situation. Sia admits that she is glad that John is back. She kept her away from men and was left completely alone. Molina helps John with the dinner. To fulfill his promise, he plays the guitar while she sings. Impressed by her, he recommends she make music her full-time career. She sighs because she lacks opportunities. She thinks she cannot go big. He scoffs, advising her to leave the island and grab the opportunities waiting for her. The conversation steers toward his song, The Girl on the Beach. He admits to Molina that the song isn't about just any girl on the beach. It is about the girl. He begins talking about how she was special, how she knew him before he was famous. Curious, she asks if he wrote any other songs about her, and she urges him to play one. The song is called Find Me Falling and isn't complete yet. The song touches her heart and compliments him. Sia arrives later that night, all dressed up for the dinner. John is still getting ready when she arrives. Seeing that he isn't dressed, and with a woman, she thinks that he is cheating on her. She gets angry, and things start to go downhill when Molina comes out of the kitchen, and it is revealed that she is Sia's daughter. But this is not enough. Fate takes a twisting turn with the arrival of Elpida, Manoli's sister. She says that she is here for their date. This is the final nail in the coffin, and Sia leaves with Molina. Sia and Molina get back to their home. Sia is seething in anger, while Molina is confused about her reaction. This is when Kula realizes that she has been sending Molina to John's house for the past couple of days. Molina is still confused and demands answers. Sia lies that they met last night, and that's it. She orders Molina to not go up to his house anymore, and she leaves. On the other hand, John gets drunk and eats the food alone. Fate doesn't let Sia move on. When she lies down in her bed, the radio starts playing Girl on the Beach. Furious, she throws it out of her window. The next morning, Molina approaches her grandmother, helps her carry her stuff, and says that she needs to ask her something. She takes her home and asks questions about Sia. She asks about her mother and John. She hesitates at first, but then starts spilling the tea. John can be seen fixing his fence when Sia arrives. She is holding a bag full of groceries for him. At that moment, he asks her about Molina, and it is revealed that she is his biological daughter. He sighs in disbelief because he never even knew that Sia was pregnant when they called things off. She admits that she came to New York after finding out. She managed to get backstage, to his dressing room, but she saw him with women all over him. In that moment, she decided that she didn't want to raise their child in such an environment. He calls her crazy for deciding such a big thing after his one bad moment. This time Sia scoffs, saying that she watched his entire life, and it was one bad moment after another. She admits that maybe it was a bad decision, but she was young and scared of his fame. He gets angry upon finding out that Molina doesn't know about him. All her life she has known that Sia had a summer fling, and the man left. In her own way, Sia thought that she was doing him a favor. He wishes to have been given a choice. He tells her that he waited for her at the airport, wishing that she would show up. Sia confesses that she didn't want to give up on her dreams, just to follow his. That night at the tavern, Molina sings a beautiful song while John sees her with longing. He drinks shot after shot of drink, getting drunk. Spotting John in the crowd, she begins to sing Girl on the Beach. She invites John on the stage. Having the courage after drinking so much liquor, he gets on the stage and starts singing. Drunk, John makes some alterations to the song and admits in front of the whole crowd that the song was written for Sia, that Molina is his child, and Sia kept it a secret from him. Molina looks at her mom to say something, but when she doesn't, she runs out of the tavern. Sia runs after her, and they have a heated conversation out in the street. She is furious at Sia for lying about not knowing who the father is. She admits that she loved him, but knew that rock stars don't make good fathers. Molina is angry that Sia never even gave John a chance to be a father and leaves. The next morning, John is playing Find Me Falling when a boy comes to deliver groceries. He is sad but accepts them. Meanwhile, Molina is avoiding Sia. John gets a call from Jimmy. Turns out that John sent him Find Me Falling, and he believes that this song will be the one to bring him back. Jimmy says that he would send a jet to pick him up, and he agrees. But their conversation is cut short by John, who sees a young girl standing on the cliff's edge. He goes out to help her. Turns out that she is pregnant and does not know what to do with her life. He talks her into coming forward, and they engage in a conversation. She is worried that her parents will end her if they find out about her. She doesn't have anywhere to go, so he invites her in. Recognizing him as the John Allman, she agrees. She spends the night at his place, while he keeps sitting at the door, making sure she doesn't leave. The next morning, while Sia does a routine checkup of her mom, they engage in a conversation. She blames Sia for always taking the easy way out. She left John because being on her own was easier than being with him. Their conversation stops when Molina arrives with the grandmother's stuff, but her face falls upon seeing Sia there. The grandmother orders the both of them to sit down with her and have tea. On the other hand, John is having tea with the girl. She tells him her story. She says that her parents think that she is at her university in Athens, and she doesn't have enough courage to face them. She hasn't told her parents, and the baby's father is out of the picture. He asks about the tattoo on her wrist, and she smiles, saying that it means freedom. John shows her his own tattoo, Sia's full name, Athanasia, tattooed on his biceps. On the other hand, after having a deep conversation, the mother-daughter reconciles. Sia apologizes for keeping Molina in the dark and she forgives her. John encourages the girl to go talk to her parents and drives her home. He offers to go in first and is surprised to find that her father is none other than Captain Manoli. He and his wife, Ismini, are surprised that John knows about their daughter, Anna. Manoli becomes furious upon knowing that Anna was at John's house and threatens him. Seeing John in trouble, Anna gets out of the car and tells everyone how John saved her life. Seeing their daughter, heavily pregnant, infuriates Manoli, and he charges Anna. John is quick enough to stop him. Ismini rushes towards Anna, gets her inside, and tells Manoli to not come back until he has calmed down. Manoli heads over to John's place, helps him with the fence, and they have a drink. That night, they discuss their lives over bottles of beer. This is when he gets a call, informing him that Anna has gone into labor. John quickly drives him to the hospital, and on his way there, Manoli panics that his baby is having a baby. John calms him down, saying that he would be a wonderful grandfather. As John is waiting at the hospital, with a balloon and a flower, Sia finds him. Thinking that he is here to see her, she approaches him. She ruins the flowers but gets embarrassed upon finding that the flowers weren't for her, but for Anna. He then apologizes for his outburst the other day, at the tavern. He tells her with a heavy heart that he's leaving Cyprus, unable to stay any longer. The news hits Sia like a sharp blow, and she retreats, her face a mask of sadness and unspoken pain. With a lingering sense of regret, John heads to Anna's room, where he meets her and the tiny new life she has brought into the world. Upon holding the baby, he realizes what he missed in life. His emotions swell as he discovers that Anna and her family have named the baby Gianni, a name that resonates deeply with him, as it is the Greek equivalent of John. That night, he goes back home and makes an opening in his fence. The following morning, he heads to Kula's shop with a sense of urgency. His heart races as he searches for Molina, hoping to make amends and seek her help. Kula greets him with a mixture of frustration and disappointment, clearly upset upon learning of his imminent departure. She is not pleased with his decision to leave. When Molina arrives, she is taken aback to see John waiting for her. With a sincere tone and a deep sense of remorse, John apologizes for his behavior at the tavern, acknowledging that he is unprepared for the responsibilities of fatherhood. He admits that he is uncertain about how to navigate this new role, but he is committed to doing his best. With a look of earnest hope, he requests Molina's assistance and permission for a plan he has been contemplating, eager to show that he is ready to make meaningful changes in his life. Later that night, John, encouraged by Molina, goes to see Sia. He stands in the dimly lit street outside her window, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and nervousness. Under the soft glow of the streetlights, he begins to sing a heartfelt Greek song, his voice carrying across the quiet neighborhood. Inside, Sia watches from her window, her emotions a tangled mess. She listens as John pours his soul into the song, accompanied by Molina's warm harmonies. Despite the stirring performance, Sia hesitates, torn between her desire to join him and her fear of vulnerability. The neighbors, moved by the scene, come together, adding their voices to support John's heartfelt gesture. As the final notes of the song fade into the night, Sia hurries to the front door, her emotions in turmoil. She almost steps outside, but then decides against it, overwhelmed by the complexity of her feelings. Molina is sad at her mom's attitude, apologizes to John, and begins to leave. Before she goes, John stops her, handing her a small, carefully wrapped package. After he departs, Molina opens the gift to find a copy of his song, Find Me Falling, along with a note encouraging her to pursue her own path and embrace her dreams. The gesture touches her deeply. That night at the tavern, Molina sings Find Me Falling. Meanwhile, In their respective homes, Sia and John sit in solitude. Upon getting home, Molina taunts her mom for not opening up the door and for not coming out. She makes Sia realize that John has done so much for her, and now it is time for her to take the step. Early next morning, Sia goes to the cliff to find the fence demolished and John sitting by it remains. She tells him that she is ready to jump into this new life with him. In response, John wraps her in a warm, heartfelt embrace, his joy evident as he kisses her passionately. The barriers that once stood between them dissolve in their loving connection, marking the beginning of a hopeful new chapter for both of them. The movie ends sometime later with Molina successfully launching her musical career with Find Me Falling and Jimmy as her manager. Her family completes, with John and Sia reconciling. While Molina is in New York, making her own career, John stays with Sia, in his home by the cliff, surrounded by the people he found on the island and the friends he made. His home is now a safe place for people who want to talk about their life before jumping off the cliff. It is no longer just a place of isolation, but a refuge and a beacon of connection for those who need it most.